guys, welcome back to True Crime Time ASMR. I'm Nicole. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned into this video. I truly appreciate you. And if you're new here and you enjoy whispered true crime, please consider subscribing to the channel. I post 2 times a week, on Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I recommend using headphones if you'd like to hear the gentle mic brushing. Alright, now let's get to tonight's case. Now this one has been covered by everyone out there, okay? So I apologize if you've already heard it, but it has been requested and it is truly a very thought-provoking case. So that's why I'm covering it. This is the case of Cindy James. This case occurred in 1989 in a town called Richmond, Canada. I believe it is not far from Vancouver, British Columbia. And Cindy James was 44 years old at the time of this incident. Alright, so by the way, shout out to Canada. Alright, Cindy James was born as Cynthia Hack in 1944 in British Columbia, Canada. She had 2 parents, Otto and Tilly, and she was one of 6 children. She was the eldest. Her father was a retired Canadian Air Force colonel, and her mother was a stay-at-home mom, let's just call it. I mean, she had 6 children. That's a lot. So, after Cynthia graduated high school, she really wanted to attend a traditional university, 4-year university. But her father had the kind of values where he felt that which cared for children with behavioral and or emotional problems. And although Cindy never had any children of her own, she loved these children at the program and they loved her. And her coworkers really liked her as well. She was known as someone you could really count on. Now, after having been married for 16 years, Cindy broke up with Dr. Roy Makepeace. They split up. It was 1982, and they parted ways amicably, and they continued to stay in contact and be pretty friendly. And everyone was kind of surprised, like, why did you break up? I thought your marriage was going well. But we really don't know, and I believe it was Cindy who initiated the breakup. But like I said, it was amicable. And everything was fine until about 3 months after the breakup. So it was October of 82. And she started getting these creepy phone calls where nobody would speak, but she would kind of hear them breathing, and it was very creepy. She kept getting these calls. One day she closed the blinds right after she got the call, and next thing she knew, she got a call where they said, "Oh, we still see you," or something of that nature. She also reported that someone had thrown rocks through her window, broken her porch lights, somehow came in and slashed her pillows open with a knife. And she even started to get things in her mailbox, like your typical creepy letters that they always show in horror movies, where someone cut out all these letters from a magazine and then glued them together. And one said, "Soon, Cindy." And one said, "I see you." That sort of thing. And she was truly scared. She was scared all the time now. These things just kept happening. And this sort of thing would go on for the next 6.5 years, okay? And she would ultimately wind up reporting about 100 incidents. Alright, we'll get into some more of them, but I'm not going to obviously tell you all 100, so I will be leaving out a lot of the incidents. She also reported having her telephone wires cut often, which is really scary because that would leave her without the ability to even call for help. So, one police officer responded to one of these incidents. His name was Pat McBride. And he said to her, "Hey, could this be your ex-husband, Roy?" And she said, "No way, it's not Roy. He's the one who told me to call the police, in fact. And he's a good guy, we get along. He would never want to scare me like this." Well, he wasn't convinced. And he came back and he installed deadbolts on all of her doors. And they started up a romance. And he wound up moving in. One night, when he went outside, he saw her ex-husband, Roy, in the alley behind the house. And he had 2 guns, not one, but 2 guns. So, the police officer, Pat, he said, "What are you doing here?" And Roy said, "Oh, I am patrolling the house to make sure nobody, tries to hurt Cindy." Well, that seemed a bit suspicious to Pat. But nonetheless, after about a month, Cindy asked him to move out. I don't know why. And he some sort of sharp object, and she had a black nylon stocking tied tightly around her neck. So she went to her friend and she's like, are you okay? What happened here? And Cindy explained that a man knocked on the door. She answered the door. He forced her into the garage and he started attacking her. But then when he heard Agnes knocking, he took off. So that was super, super scary. Like I said, that was the first physically violent attack. And she said she didn't see him. She only saw he had white sneakers, and that's all she knows. So she went to report it to the police, of course. And I don't know why, but they gave her a polygraph test, which she wound up failing, because supposedly she held back information and she really actually did know who the attacker was what they were saying. So she admitted she knew who the attacker was, but that he had threatened to hurt her friends and family if she reported him. So let me just interject and say, so why was she even reporting it at all if that was the case? Like, if she knows who it is and she's not telling them, what's the point? Now, in October of '83, she came home to find 3 dead cats hanging from the trees in her yard. And there was a note that said, "You're next." Now, incident after incident after incident, the police always kept her case open, but they were starting to feel that there was a pattern. It's always the same thing: threatening notes, threatening phone calls, cut phone wires, damage to property, all that. But they were starting to get suspicious of her because they were never finding anyone. They were starting to think she was doing it to herself. So she decided to hire a private investigator, and his name was Ozzy. He was a little bit suspicious of her as well in the beginning, but after a while he started to really believe that these things were happening to her and she wasn't doing it. So one thing he did was he gave her a two-way radio so that he could listen in at her home and make sure she was safe. And one night he heard some really suspicious sounds coming from the radio, and it seemed like maybe she was in danger. So he went over to her place and he found her laying on the floor. She seemed to be unconscious. There was a black nylon stocking around her neck, and get this, there was a kitchen knife, they called it a paring knife, that was stabbed through her hand, like through the back of her hand, and there was a note placed in between the knife and her hand that said, "Now you must die." So now, according to Ozzy, quote, "She told me that she noticed a man coming through the gate. The next thing that she remembers is being hit on the side of the head with a piece of wood or something of that nature. She then remembered being held down on the floor, and she remembered a needle going into her arm." So, as usual, the police investigated. They found no signs of forced entry. They did see needle marks on her arm, but they found no substances, like no drugs in her system. And they finally decided to question her ex-husband because she wound up admitting that he had been violent on some occasions. So they brought him in. He insisted he had nothing shifts. They tapped her phone, trying to catch someone in the act, right? And it was very expensive. Supposedly it cost them $1 million to do all of this. But they found absolutely nothing, like nothing went on during this entire time. So, after a few months of this, they stopped it. Now, Cindy's family and friends said, well, of course, the attacker or attackers aren't going to be stupid enough to do anything while the police are watching. So it makes sense. And that the attackers are actually purposely trying to make it look like Cindy's crazy. Like that's part of their scheme. So the private investigator, Ozzy, he recommended to Cindy that she undergo hypnosis to maybe try to figure out if she kind of had, blocked out something that could be helpful. And ultimately, she remembered. They went on a yacht trip to Thormanby Island, and Roy had killed and dismembered a young couple, according to her. So the police looked into this, but they found nothing whatsoever. No missing people at the time. Like, they had gone on the trip, that was confirmed, but there were no incidents. There was nothing reported. No one saw anything. Nothing. So in 1985, Cindy decided to move to a town called Richmond. Maybe she was thinking, it'll be safer, let me move. I believe she had moved a few times during all these ordeals. And one night, shortly after having just moved in, she was found 6 miles from her house in a ditch, unconscious, wearing only one glove and one man's work boot. And she had another black nylon stocking tied around her neck. She seemed to have been drugged. She was almost in hypothermia and she was covered with bruises. Once again, she remembered absolutely nothing of the attack. So shortly after that, she asked her friend Agnes and Agnes's husband Tom to come and stay with her for a little bit. So now it was January of '86. So one night, in the middle of the night, Cindy came knocking on the bedroom door of Agnes and Tom. And she said she heard something in the basement. And Tom said he heard it too. So Tom rushed down there to find out that the basement was in flames. So they ran out of the house and Tom saw a man just standing out there. And when he approached him to talk to him, the man ran away. So obviously the police came, the fire department, and the police said that it seemed that the fire had been set from inside the house because there were no fingerprints or anything on the outside of the basement window. So of course, once again, they're looking at Cindy and thinking she set the fire herself. So next up, Cindy goes into a psychiatric facility where she stays for 10 weeks. And the psychiatrists there seem to think that she is doing all of these things to herself. And she's keeping a journal, and one of the things that she wrote was, quote, "I still feel suicide is my best option in an unbearable situation, and as soon as I get out of here, I will carry out my plan." Now, after she got out of the facility, to make matters worse, she was fired from her job. At this point, she decided to change her name from Makepeace to James, so that's how she becomes Cindy James. I'm not sure what the significance She went to the beauty salon. She deposited her paycheck in the bank. She bought a gift for her friend's son. And she did a bunch of grocery shopping. That night, Agnes went over to Cindy's house because they were supposed to play cards. But Cindy wasn't there. So she reported it, and Cindy officially became a missing person at that point. They started hanging up, posters and flyers and what have you. Her car was found in a parking lot. In the trunk were all her groceries and the gift that she had purchased. There was blood on one of the doors. It was the driver's side door. There was blood there. Items from her wallet were found on the ground right beneath the car. So it was a manhunt. Finally, after 2 full weeks, on June 8th, she was found by a construction worker. She was laying in the front yard of an abandoned house. And here is what that construction worker said. Quote, "Her face was completely black. I think it had been punched in. A cord was wrapped around one ankle and a wrist." Now, interestingly enough, the police decided that she took her own life. Her cause of death was an overdose of morphine, which had been injected, and she had taken an oral dose of something called fluorazepine, which is a type of benzodiazepine, similar to something like Valium. So they feel that she gave herself those drugs and then tied herself up and put herself in the yard. Okay. And then once they decided that she took her own life, they stopped investigating. So, now according to the coroner, who did extensive research, okay, they claim this was the most expensive inquest in the history of British Columbia. They had brought in 84 witnesses to testify. Ultimately, they ruled that her death was from an unknown event. The end. Not very satisfying, but that was it. That's the end. So, let's talk about it. Now, first of all, what do you think? I would love to hear what you think. Seriously, so let me know in the comments. Now, there were 4 possible suspects here. Okay. Number 1, she did it herself. Number 2, it was her ex-husband. Number 3, it was the police officer, Pat. And number 4, it was the man who was outside the house during the fire. The man who ran away without saying anything. So let's start with him, because I think there's nothing to go on there. We don't know anything about this guy. Maybe he had absolutely nothing to do with it. Maybe he was just outside and walked by and saw it and he didn't want to get involved, or it just appeared that he ran away. We have nothing on this guy. So that's all there is to say about him. Alright, let's talk about Pat, the police officer. I mean, he had the key to her house, but that's the only thing suspicious about him, in my opinion. These things were already happening to her before he ever got involved in the case, yeah, he was kind of early on in the whole thing, but he wasn't there from the beginning, and so why would he have started doing these things to her when they were complete strangers? So, unless there's some more information about him that we're not aware of, you never know what's left out here. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe, well, I don't want to put out any maybes, okay? But you get what I'm saying. husband, well, I mean, there are strange things about him, like he was a lot older than her, so that's a little weird. Why did they suddenly get divorced, even though they seemed to have a happy marriage? So there must have been something bad there, you know, that we don't know about. Was he really behind her house with 2 guns? Like, what was that about? I don't know. That's a maybe, maybe not situation. And was it her? Did she do it to herself? That is the big question. Well, her ex-husband suggested, now he was the only person who suggested this, but he said she had multiple personalities, and that one of her personalities was like harassing her and hurting her, and that her other personalities didn't know about it. But he was the only one to think that, and we know that the idea of having multiple personalities is extremely, extremely, extremely rare. So, I don't know about that theory. Now, another thing is, did she do it to herself? Well, you know what, like a lot of it sounds like she could have. But the dead cats, I mean, does she seem like a person that would kill animals? There was also an incident which I didn't mention, where she came home to find her own dog, who she loved. Okay, she loved this dog named Heidi. She found her own dog had been tied up, was scared out of her mind, and was like sitting in her own excrement. Now, why would she hurt her own dog like that? You know, whatever it was. Like those are some strange pieces of it. But I mean, anything's possible, right? But the reason why I kind of doubt that she did it to herself, at least the last piece, I mean, maybe she did all the things to herself up to this point at the end, okay? But her death, I don't see her as being capable of killing herself at the end. You know, maybe, like I said, maybe she did all the other things, and then this was done to her by somebody else who was maybe fed up with the whole thing. She went missing on the 25th of May, okay? And she wasn't found until 2 weeks later, on June 8th. And she was found in the front yard of a house. Nobody noticed a dead person in the front yard of a house for 2 weeks. No, that can't be. This wasn't like a quiet alley somewhere. This was a somewhat active street, so she could not have been there since May 25th. somebody had to have taken her from the car, which caused her to spill out